This movie would be Arena from 1989, starring.
Um,
I don't
oh
even
God,
remember. I forgot what his
yeah,
name was, but I know Claudia Christian is in it.
yeah, her I've seen her. Yeah, she was on
Her I've
Babylon
seen before in
5.
a bunch of movies or whatever.
Yeah, and she was in some movie where an alien came down and possessed somebody's body, possessed her body, and there was a alien police guy coming down to capture her or it or whatever.
I
I
never
forget.
saw.
I forget the name of that movie. Hamilton Camp was in it. He played the forearm.
I'd never seen him before. My friend
He,
said, "Oh yeah, he's been in a bunch of movies." I don't remember ever seeing that
yeah,
dude.
he didn't do much science fiction movies, but he usually played like some smart, brainy guy.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, he was like a popular bit player in some TV shows, and
Okay.
but I've never seen him as far as I know in well, this is supposed to be a science fiction movie.
Well, the combination of him and the forearm guy, the short guy, was almost like it was the short guy was playing Burgess Meredith,
Yeah,
Rocky. I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is sort of like Rocky meets uh, what's that show with Gil Gerard? Buck
Oh, Buck
Rogers from
Rogers,
the
yeah.
TV show. Really lousy special effects. Everything's all bright and glittery.
Well, it's the '80s. That
Yeah,
was the time.
yeah, that's the future. Well, that's what
Late
the
late
'80s.
'80s anyway. That was
Yeah, '89, I think. It's probably filmed in '87.
I think it was I don't know if it was filmed in Italy, but there were some Italian names in the
Yeah,
production. I know Charles Band, and I know they did movies in Italy, but
yeah. Charles Band and was it Yablans?
yeah, Irving Yablans, yeah,
Erwin Yablans was the
and the guy
producer.
and the two guys, Danny Bilson and oh,
Paul
I forgot what the
DeBay.
other guy's name was. They were involved in the Flash TV show,
Okay, okay.
which I didn't like, but because Flash looked like a puffy plush doll with this puffy uniform.
Oh
But hey,
yeah, he
what
had the fake
you
muscle
remember?
suit. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was. They never do superhero movies right. I'm sorry. They always mess them up for the
yeah,
most part. 90% of the time, my
yeah.
opinion.
Because what makes a movie really good, I mean, a comic book, like the icon, like, and I did it a Punisher movie, but the Punisher didn't have any skull emblem on his chest. I was like, well, what's the friggin' point? They
Yeah,
just don't.
right, right. See,
Yeah,
this movie when I first looked at it, I thought it was based on a book. I remember a comic book story based on an old book called Arena,
yeah,
but I didn't see any acknowledgement. So in this storyline, I've seen it before in comics. I can't tell you which one it was, but I have seen the human versus the alien in
yeah.
a match before.
There was a story. Frederick Brown, who's a science
Okay.
fiction writer. He wrote The Arena, and it was based on these two aliens meet. One is a weird tentacle thing. One is a human, and they're plucked up by these super extraterrestrials and put in this arena to fight each other. And the guy wins by figuring out how to get past the force field or whatever. So they took that story, turned it into the arena on Star Trek, with
Oh, is that? Oh, there's a Star Trek connection to this. Okay.
yeah, which Kirk fighting that lizard guy.
Oh, so that's part of the story. Okay.
But yeah, this movie is more Rocky and stuff. Has the same name, but it's because in that one, the Frederick Brown story, in the Star Trek story, the two people were sort of plucked out of their various ships and put in together to fight this, and the winner or the loser would be totally destroyed, and the winner, would be safe to go away. This one, it's more like a Rocky thing where they go to fight willingly in an arena.
Oh, okay. Well, this guy, I mean, he was just like he was Hamilton Camp. He worked at the a restaurant, right? It wasn't like he wasn't
Yeah,
originally a fighter.
no, Yeah, Hamilton Camp. That's the forearm guy. The main guy is Paul Satterfield.
Okay, that's the guy I'm talking about. Hamilton Camp is the form
Yeah,
Burt Meredith. Okay, I'm talking about the fighter, the blonde-haired guy.
yeah,
What's his name?
yeah. That's Paul Satterfield.
See him. I don't. The other guy I remember. Satterfield. I don't remember
I
much
think
from
he
anything.
he went and did after I don't know how many movies he did, and I think after that he went on to do a lot of soap operas.
He looks like a soap opera guy.
Yeah, in fact, he looks a lot like
Christopher Reeve.
yeah, Christopher Reeve, which I'm like, holy crap, yeah, he does.
He
I
does
think
look
he
like
got
a
older.
blonde-haired.
He,
Yeah.
he he changed a bit, but
I saw a picture of him older. Yeah, he changed a lot, but back then he looked like either a Christopher Reeve type or Sam Jones and Flash Gordon. You know that crappy Flash Gordon movie that they made in the '80s. You know, with
oh,
the
that
Queen
guy, yeah,
soundtrack.
yeah, whatever his name was.
Sam Jones,
Yeah, Sam Jones.
who
Yeah,
also played Spirit on TV, and he played other characters. Yeah, Sam Jones. Yeah, I saw that Flash Gordon movie in the theater. It was 1980. That's back when you went to the theater because there was nothing on TV as opposed to,
yeah,
you know, and it was cheap. Like
yeah,
everything else was cheap before the whatever took over and made everything expensive and obnoxious. So
yeah.
that's
Oh
it for
God.
politics today. But at any rate, yeah. So this was kind of like an idea taken from other. It was taken from comics too. I know that.
Yeah,
Like I said, there's a comic book adaptation in. I can't remember. It was like some sci-fi book that Marvel did in the '70s, and it was called Arena. It might be an adaptation of that Frederick Brown book. And I remember Dick Giordano drew it, and
uh-huh.
they did a color version of it. And they also did it in black and white. And when like what was it called? The science fiction books Marvel did. The I
A
don't know,
little
Fantastic
preview.
World of Science Fiction. I don't remember,
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah, all '70s stuff or whatever. So, but yeah, no, I mean, when you picked it, I was like, okay. And then when I saw it, I was like, wow, these are like there's a lot of video special effects here or whatever. You know, it
yeah,
reminded me of going to a video store and getting like some new release, and it was like it had a glitzy cover on it, but when you get it, it's like, oh, okay. But this
yeah.
movie's bad. It wasn't boring. I'll tell you that much.
No, it was a simple story. It made sense. It had some interesting aliens. I mean, they were definitely riffing off Star Wars and Star
Oh
Trek with
yeah.
the aliens, but also it had a Rocky theme too,
Hmm.
and
And a weird
yeah,
love story.
it was very definitely a product of its time. I can remember back then, if you watch anything in outer space, it was all chrome, and everybody's wearing these uncomfortable sort of metal bikinis or
Oh yeah.
you know weird disco style boots and stuff. It's oof.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I mean it's this movie suffers from the masks weren't that bad. The spaceships were kind of yuck, you know.
yeah,
When you make a movie like this, you really do need a bigger budget.
yeah.
But
Oh God, yeah,
and another thing that this movie is missing that we need because we are, B movie dirt bags is there's no. I don't think I did. I see a nude woman in there. Maybe the girl he went to bed with, maybe for a second.
yeah.
But there was,
You saw a side boob, and that's about it.
yeah, that's it. I mean, when you get one of these movies, you're like, okay, well, at least I'm going to get something, and you don't really get something. You get a little bit, you know. So it really doesn't deliver the goods. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like one of these movies that's like I don't know, I'm going to call it a limbo movie, but it's not enough of this and it's not enough of that. It's just a
yeah,
little bit of everything, but it doesn't, it doesn't. But I tell you, the suits and some of the monsters weren't bad. Looks like
yeah,
that's what spent most of the money
yeah.
on.
Some of them were pretty good, and they
And there's
could
a
have,
lot of
yeah, they could have done a little bit better. But I mean, there was no secondary storyline really.
no,
Uh,
no.
I mean, well, in some of the acting was there could have been. I mean, it almost had like a thing where the people who lived down in the lower decks of the spaceship, There was like an old fighter who I guess he had to retire because he was too old.
Yeah, that is in the story.
Yeah, so I mean, there was a bunch of things that could have been taken forward and moved along or added to the subplot, or they just
Yeah, but yeah, I know, I understand, but as it is, this movie was 90 minutes, so they can't go
yeah,
any. Back then, you couldn't go any further with one of these movies because people would
yeah,
just get totally bored or whatever,
yeah.
So
This is one
it,
of those movies you go to the drive-in with your friends and drink.
at this point, this movie might have been at a drive-in, but I'm pretty sure this movie was like VHS,
Yeah, it
made
probably went
directly
straight
for
to video.
VHS. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but by '89, a lot of this low-budget stuff. I mean, some of it was playing in theaters,
Yeah,
some of it. But it's funny how through the decades, like movies get longer and longer. It's like now by the '90s or late '80s, there were 90 minutes for the B
mhm,
movies. I mean, not the normal movies, the B
yeah,
movies. And then like in the '80s, it might have been 80 minutes.
yeah,
In the '60s, it might have been 75, 80 minutes. In the
yeah.
'50s, it was like, little by little, they get longer and longer and longer. Now there's like, I don't know, is there a B movie now? I don't even know. I don't even
Well,
know what they're making these days. Everything's like
yeah,
a big budget CGI mess.
yeah. That's the regular movies. If you want to go to like B movies, you probably go to YouTube.
Do you
Oh,
see I mean, do you see modern day brand new? Well, those Sharktopus things or whatever, those
yeah,
Super Croc, Gator, and
yeah. The Sci-Fi
all
Channel does
that.
those, and there's a couple of streaming channels where that stuff ends up.
Does it? Okay, I guess
Yeah,
I avoid it. Like
because I got Roku, and there's the Haunt TV. There's um, I think it's called Dust that
oh
does some
yeah,
sci, and they mix sci-fi, horror, fantasy. So
yeah.
instead of going straight to video, they go straight to streaming.
Yeah, there's no point in putting it out on video. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, who's gonna buy it?
or even DVD. It's
Not
just
even,
yeah,
not even
nobody.
DVDs are becoming, besides the mainstream things, which of course they release them usually, stuff's going straight to streaming because the labels don't want to manufacture, and it's so cheap for them to just crank it out, put it on Netflix, and
Yeah,
count the
exactly.
money. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the point. And the stuff that's getting released now on DVD and Blu-ray and whatever are either blockbusters that people may want, or they do collectible things now where they do a box set with all these special, and they charge you a lot of money, and they're limited too. They're like limited to a couple thousand,
mm,
maybe. Like there's like small labels now that grab old movies and they fix them up, or they get better prints, and they do like a nice packaging, but you're paying like $30 for it or something,
yeah.
which like
It's not.
nah. Movie didn't cost $30 to make. Why am I paying $30 to watch it? So
Yeah.
I'm happy with my DVDs.
Some of them use they'll also include. I mean, if it's a bigger budget movie, they'll include like if there's an alternate ending or
Sure,
cast
cut scenes,
interviews,
scenes
scenes
that were
that
cut.
were cut. Uh, you know, so yeah, but it's not worth it sometimes to buy these. The only DVDs I have are a couple of TV shows I like to watch, and
Oh yeah,
because usually like the Wild Wild West, I like that
yeah,
TV,
it was a good show.
and that can be hard to find on TV
There's a
depending on.
channel. It shows up on one channel. I forgot what it was. Like one at nights. It's one of
Yeah,
those. It's one of those streaming channels. It's either on Pluto or Plex. But they do have a Western
okay.
channel, and they do the
I know MeTV will show stuff like that,
MeTV shows it on Sundays. Wild Wild West.
and Antenna TV, but I don't get either one of them. So
Oh, you don't get either one? Oh,
no, I
okay.
don't get either one. What I would like to get is the original Star Trek series, but with the new special effects added, the
I don't want the
spaceships.
new special effects added. I really
Nope.
don't. No.
Oh, okay.
I like the old special effects. I don't know. I don't like them messing with shows. It's like I don't like it when they do it to records too, where they take like a classic record, and they remix it, and it's like sometimes
Yeah.
it's subtle, but sometimes it doesn't even sound like the
Like the
original
original
song. And
song.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
I can see that.
you don't mess with success. But
Yeah,
no, I do. The what you might call it, the Star Trek with the new effects is on MeTV.
yeah,
They show it with the new, and I don't like it. I really don't. I mean, I like it. Just leave it alone. But that's just me, you know. I mean,
yeah.
whatever. They can't fix it all, you know. I mean,
Well, yeah,
regardless of
that's
the new spaceships and all that, the costumes are still the costumes, and
yeah.
you
What
know,
I would
whatever.
like is because I know over the years the commercial breaks have been longer and longer. What I would really
Yeah,
like is to find the original broadcast versions because a lot of times they would cut scenes
yeah, sure.
that explained stuff or had some humor in it, whatever.
Well, the worst
Or
thing for
like,
me is not
yeah,
even the cut scenes. You know, it's
yeah,
really horrible.
but
If I tell you this, I might mess with your mind.
uh-oh,
You may start looking for this, and you go, "Oh God, yeah, I can hear it now." I hate to do it, but you don't watch. You know, it doesn't bother you that much. They speed up shows now to
oh
get,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
can tell because you're hearing the guys' voices, and they're like more high pitched than they used to
yeah.
be. You know, and when
I hate that.
they walk like Keystone Cops sometimes. That bothers me more than anything else when they speed up a show.
Yeah, I
It's
hate
like
that. That's
I'd rather you cut a scene than speed it up and have it talking like that or whatever, you know, or the cars crossing, they're going like super fast as opposed to the speed they were. I'm like, ugh. They do
yeah,
it all the time.
yeah.
Yeah, anyway, you know, we complain because we can, but you know, just leave the show alone. You know, just leave the show alone. As a matter of fact, you know what would be great if they would just leave the show alone, and then instead of the show ending at the half hour, just have end it at five after and get all your dumb commercials. Don't cut it. Don't speed it
Yeah,
up. And then just start the other show at like five after or six after. Didn't have to be on the half hour, but don't mess with the shows because it's like people get it. Obviously, they're gonna say, "Well, you're getting those Roku channels for free." Okay, all right, whatever. You
I
know.
think England does that, or used to anyway. They would show a show, and however long it was,
Yeah, they do the BBC. Yeah.
yeah, would be it, and then they would show the commercial break in between that and the next show, which to me makes more sense.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But
So anyway, what's this movie about? Arena. What are we
uh,
talking about? What's going
so
on in this classic?
it starts with you see people fighting in an arena, and there's this weird, dopey looking alien wearing like this round metal robot suit, and he's fighting this I don't know horned lizard guy who's half cyborg and half alien, and it's a crappy fight, and he's ripping off an arm and he's throwing people around, and you know the the people in the corner for the dumpy robot guy. They're like, "Oh, he's cheating," you know, because he throws him into the audience and he goes after him, starts beating. I think he rips off an arm and starts beating the guy.
Yeah, I remember.
And then you know you figure out this, and you know there's a big crowd cheering, so you figure it's an arena and they're fighting, and then it switches to Paul Satterfield and um,
Hamilton Camp.
Hamilton Camp. The Hamilton Camp's got four arms, and he's talking in a
I didn't
weird.
notice it at first. You know what? Until
Yeah,
like that one scene where he
very
was playing
sudden.
cards. I was like, oh,
And he's in a cantina in the space station. You're in a space station, and Paul Satterfield is a short order cook, and he's trying to get everything cooked, and he's messing up, and he's turning the blender on without the cover, and everything goes everywhere, and he's burning himself on the stove, and then you have aliens complaining, and then these two fish aliens are complaining to Hamilton Camp, and then he's addressing them down, and then their father comes along, and he's a big fish alien, and he starts to threaten Hamilton Camp, and then Paul Satterfield comes in, and they have a fight, and he's knocking over tables, and he ends up throwing the guy out the window. But because there was a fight, the space station fires them from their cantina. Then the guy wants to go home, so he wants to go back to Earth. He came to the station to fight, and for some reason, humans don't fight in
The
the
arena.
arena anymore. And plus, there's also this corruption. There's some guy.
Yeah, the
Uh,
evil guy, Robor or whatever. He
yeah,
sits
yeah,
above the
Robo. Yeah,
he sits
he
above the stage there.
he's he's sort of like, I don't know if he's some important bigwig in the
Oh,
fight.
he was the I mean Claudia Christian was one of the
Yeah,
fight promoters, but he was the other guy. He had the
yeah,
champion, remember? The guy
yeah. Yes, that's right. He was the horn guy. The horn guy is named Horn,
yeah, there you go.
and yeah, he's the promoter and owner of that guy, and they're giving Horn injection stuffs to make him fight better.
Yeah, he's a champ, won like 50 fights or
Yeah, and so
something.
he's crooked, and then he's got this guy, this alien weasel who looks like a weasel,
Yeah, right.
running around doing errands for him and sneaky stuff. And he also runs illegal gambling dens and all this stuff. So anyway, Paul Satterfield, he wants to go home.
They didn't have enough money.
He doesn't have enough money, and because Hamilton Camp, because he protected Hamilton Camp from the fish alien. Hamilton Camp goes, oh, I'll get you some money and get you home and get you set up. And he Paul Satterfield lost his berth on the station because
For getting
he
into a
lost his
fight.
job and he didn't have enough. He didn't have enough money for the down payment or whatever. So that's how they end up in the bottom of the space station, like in the pits. And there's all friendly but poor people there, and they're all rags and stuff. And he meets the last human fighter in the arena, and he's they're there, and you're getting to know everybody and meet people, and then the two of the guys who you find out that Claudia Christensen and her two helpers are were the backers of the fish alien who was a fighter in the arena. And he goes, oh, this guy beat you. This guy beat you up. So the two henchmen, they find where the Satterfield is, and they start beating him up. And then he starts
I think his
beating.
name was Steve in the movie or whatever. Steve.
Yeah, and so they start beating him up, and
They get into a pretty hellacious fight throughout
yeah,
the.
and at first they're kicking his ass, and then he starts whipping him out, and then Claudia Christensen comes down, and she offers him a fighting contract, and he's like, no thanks, I want to go back to Earth. So then Hamilton Camp and Satterfield, they go out drinking, and then they're watching a video of what's her name in the movie?
But the singer lady,
Yeah, the singer lady,
she's at the
Jade.
casino. They're like at a casino or
Yeah, they're
whatever.
at the bar casino. Yeah, so they're watching Jade, and then there's this weird chameleon alien, and his eyes are wiggling around. He's going, whoa, because apparently Jade is hot.
Yeah,
So, so then they go to one of the illegal gambling dens, and
to make
Hamilton
some money.
tries to win money, but um, he loses. And then there's a raid by the commissioner, and the cops come in. They start beating up people and shooting people and stuff. And and everybody's escaping, jumping out secret passages and holes. And Hamilton Camp sees where they put the money, in the box office. So he walks in, or the cashier or whatever. He walks in, he steals all the money. I think it was 18,000 Kroger.
Yeah, right.
And he and Paul and Satterfield escape. And then Weasel, who was in the den watching the stuff, he saw Hamilton Camp steal the money. So then he goes back and talks to Rogar. So in the meantime, Hamilton Camp buys Steve a ticket back to Earth. And then they
For
get
12,000 or something,
something like
whatever.
that. Yeah, 12,000 Rogar. One way too. And then they get picked up by Rogar's men, Weasel and somebody else. And
Yeah, it was a weasel guy who had a gun or something. He took
Yeah,
him.
they go to Roger, and he
He says he
so
wants his $18,000
yeah,
back,
he
and
wants
he's
his
saying you got to get it to me in 12 hours, or I'll kill, or I'll start cutting the fingers off Hamilton Camp or something. And of course, he's got four hands, so
yeah.
you know.
So then Steve goes back to Claudia Christensen and accepts the contract, and then he has his first fight,
Yeah,
right? I think, and then he goes back to Roger.
he beats the monster.
Beats the weirdest monster. It looks like a caterpillar, but it's got like a lizard head, and it's
Yeah,
got a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
little tiny arms on it, except its legs. Its legs are like 12 or like 20 feet long, and that go out in front of it. And woof. So anyway, so Steve beats up the alien. He wins. So then he goes back to Roger.
Roger
Says, here's
gives him the
the
money.
money. And he's like, I didn't know you were a fighter. I'll offer you a contract. He goes, well, I already have a contract with Claudia. So they're like, oh, okay. So then in the meantime, oh, wait a minute. Now what happens?
I think in the meantime, Roger introduces Steve to that blonde lady singer who he has a thing
Yeah.
for. Because
For
remember, he saw her first at the casino, and she said to
Yeah,
Steve,
they saw it at the
"You're my lucky
casino.
charm" or something.
Yeah, and then so then they're getting ready for another fight, and you see him fighting and winning, and he's like
And
one
then
fight away from becoming the champion.
and then what I think was introducing Robor to Steve to the blonde who comes in, and he's like all worked up. Then the world champ comes in, and he starts getting in Steve's face like a wrestler or whatever,
Yeah,
and he challenges him to a championship match or
yeah,
something like that. And then the commissioner forces and then they said the commissioner of not because Robar isn't the commissioner, but there was a commissioner I think forces Robor to give Steve a championship fight
yeah,
with the monster or whatever, you
yeah.
know. And
Horn.
then like Steve, he sees the girl like who's like, you know, with Robor there, and like, you know, and I think Claudia Christian was in the room too, and he falls for her, and then she talks to him and she gives him a key to her apartment.
Right. So then he's after a fight he's getting prepped, or after a training fight where he's fighting like it looks like an armadillo, a giant armadillo. So he's sparring and stuff, and then the girl comes in, and I think that's when she gives him the key. And Claudia Christian's trying to say, well, you need to rest, you need to get an
Yeah,
ion shower and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, so I'll take care of it. So then he goes off, he finds Jade's apartment. There's one point where she's in the bar singing,
yeah,
and she is off key.
yeah. And there's some weird. It's like some weird sci-fi synth music too.
Yeah, and it was weird because it wasn't even. It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was terrible.
So it's like all right.
It was terrible.
So, anyways, they have sex, and then the next day she gets up. That's where you see the side boob.
No, no. Remember she poisoned him. She gave him a
Yeah,
poison drink.
yeah. After she got up and you see the side boob, then she poured a drink and gave it to him,
Yeah,
and then she leaves and goes to Rogar. And in the meantime, Skull, who's a henchman or one of the henchmen of Rogar or whatever, and Weasel, they go up. Apparently, there's some kind of gravity beam or something that they can adjust it to the two fighters. So, like
right.
one beam's red, one beam's blue, and it helps make the fighters evenly matched. So they go up and they screw with that beam.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. Before that,
Before
uh,
that, they find Steve like
yeah,
passed out in the
he's
bedroom.
passed out and he's coming. And so, he was given some poisonous drug and he would have been dead in 2 hours. So they get the doctor. He gives him something,
He gives him an
and,
antidote.
and then it's the fight, and then Horn is there. He's like, "Where is this guy? He's yellow," and the crowd is getting all crazed. Well, where is he? And then the commissioner comes to Claudia Christensen's fight room. He says, "Where is this guy? What's going on? The crowd are going crazy. They're going to tear the place apart." Well, he was poisoned, and we had to give him the antidote and stuff. And is he? Can he fight? Well, he can fight, maybe. Then we'll leave it up to you to decide. And so they wait, and then what's his name gets up. Steve gets up because I'm going to fight. So he, he's starting to come back to a normal self. So then he goes out and they start fighting. And in the first round, Steve knocks Horn out of the ring. And that's 1 point for him. And then that's when Weasel and Skull go in and they tamper with the
So those
gravity.
lights are to make Steve weak. Is that what
Yeah,
it was?
it did something to make him weaker. I don't know what it does. And so Horn, beats the crap out of Steve, and then he gets knocked out. So it's 1 point for Horn.
Yeah.
And then Hamilton Camp sees that the
The
gravity beam,
Weasel guy and all.
or whatever. So he goes up, and he's fighting with Weasel, and then you have Skull, who's got his brain hooked up to to the machine, and then they're fighting, and in the meantime, the monster Steve and Horn are fighting. Steve's getting beaten up, and then Hamilton Camp he destroys or he breaks the machine.
He goes upstairs and he fights with the Weasel and all that, and he busts up all the
Yeah,
equipment or
busts up
whatever.
the machine, and when that happens, then Skull's head blows up, and then he's fighting Weasel on a catwalk, and then Weasel falls off the catwalk and he dies.
And then when they
In the
set up
meantime,
those lights, Steve gets his power
yeah,
back.
gets his power back. And in the meantime, though, you see in the Rogor's box that he's seeing Jade's reaction to Steve getting beat up, and he goes,
Yeah, right,
"You
right.
love him. You really love him." And she's like, "No, I don't. No." So then as Steve is getting his ass kicked, and he's they plan to kill him.
Yeah.
She's like, stop it! You're going to kill him. Stop it!" And then that's when the thing blows up, and then Steve gets his regular powers back, and he starts beating, like punching Horn, and then he does that final uppercut, and you see Horn like fly back, and he's out cold, and then Steve's the winner. And you see the last human who fought in the arena. He's in the audience. He's going, yeah, and then everybody's happy. So then you see Jade leaves, and Rogor goes, "Don't," and he goes running after, and he goes, "Don't leave me, don't," because he's now his position of power is gone because his opponent lost the match, and she's like, "There's an old saying, Rogor, when it's over, it's over." And then as the crowd's cheering and mobbing around Steve, she comes walking up, sultry and sexy to him, and he's looking at her. And Chloe Christensen, she looks at Steve, and then she looks at her, and she kind of slowly walks up to her, and then Christensen knocks out Jade with a punch. Boom, boom. And everybody goes, and
The end.
yeah, the end. So
Pretty simple plot. I
yeah,
mean,
very
I usually
simple.
take notes. I only took like 3 pages of notes. It's very simple.
Yeah, I did this without notes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was very simple to follow. It's a decent copy on YouTube. It's not great. It
Yeah,
digitizes when it goes to dark, but it's watchable. Even on a TV. I watched it on TV.
yeah. Well, I think it was probably a TV copy. You know.
It probably was. It was probably a dub of. It was probably
Yeah,
a dub of a VHS, and then it was compressed. You
yeah.
know, it was shrunk, compressed, and when you do that to a video, it usually digitizes it.
Oh god, yeah. You get a lot of You get that weird digitized
There's
stuff
this
when
com-
it's
there's this
dark.
company that's all over the place that I avoid like the plague. Whenever I see a movie, oh wow, they got a copy of whatever movie, and at the beginning when it says Shoreline Productions, I
Oh
just turn
god,
it off.
yeah.
They're the worst
Yeah,
with the beach ball. They're the worst.
yeah. Terrible.
They're like the and all the stuff that they're putting out under their name. they don't even own it. It's public domain, or
Yeah.
they think it's public domain, but they give you the worst copies.
Yeah.
Oh, you know,
Well,
but they didn't. They never. Getting back to Arena, they never did a sequel or a part two or anything like that, right? This was just a number. This was just the only one.
it's the only one, and I don't know how you could do a sequel. I mean, it's basically he's a fighter who wins,
Well,
unless you do.
he quits the business and they bring him back like Rocky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, he Gloria Christian and him, and something happens to her, and she gets kidnapped, and somebody says, "Okay, the only way you can get her back is if you
It's a
fight again.
fight.
You got to fight like there you go. I just came up with a storyline for you right there. Of
There
course,
you go.
you can do a sequel to anything. You know, God.
Maybe
But
they
yeah,
do it
it's a
with
fun
better
movie.
aliens.
It's all right. You know, at first when you pulled it, it was like, oh man, okay, I guess. You know, and then when I watched it, I was like, I like it. It's not bad. You know, I
Well,
usually like my tastes usually end like somewhere in the late 70s,
hmm,
because that's when things started to get either silly or Star Wars took over,
yeah, yeah,
as
yeah,
in
yeah.
this movie. Star Wars
Yes,
took over, or it became Goresville or whatever. A lot of
right.
the stars were passing away, and
Right.
there was a few good things. Obviously, there were still good things out there, but that's when I started like the classic era, even the post classic era of horror. To me, died somewhere. It's funny. It's like I don't even think it's an age thing, because I was still in high school or in 75, barely, but I was still in high school in 75. But that's a year when a lot of shit changed.
Yeah.
Music started, a lot of the prog bands started to break up. A
Yeah.
lot of the hard rock bands were putting out, they were changing, or they were breaking up, or they weren't as strong. A little bit of punky stuff started showing up a little bit, and then disco. And
Hmm.
then a lot of the horror movies started changing too. A lot of the stars started dying, or they became gorier because of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or things like that. And that seems to be like a tipping point, 75, 76. Something changed right
Yeah.
there.
Agree.
And to me, that's like where I break off with horror pretty much. In sci-fi, still sci-fi flourished,
Yeah.
you know. It all
Well,
became
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars-ish.
Yeah. Star Trek, Star Wars. In fact, I think they were going to have when they were working on the Star Trek movie. Star Wars came out and became so popular that they totally revamped the movie coming out, and it got, I don't know, more flashy, and
Probably.
they, I wish they would have gone back to the original style of.
And then after the then it, then after the sci-fi never went away, but then the Road Warrior hit, and then you got a lot of
Yeah,
the
that
the future,
apocalyptic.
the apocalyptic future movies.
Yeah,
That
even a lot
that
of the,
fellow that I used to do a podcast with, boy, did he love those post-apocalyptic movies, man. He was like a sucker for
and
that stuff.
even with the music videos, you had a lot of like women in weird big hair and
Yeah,
spandex
yeah,
bikinis that are all ripped and torn, and some hair metal guy coming out and sit there singing among rocks, and suddenly a white horse rides by. You all
all the
this
horror
crazy,
movies became like Freddy, Jason,
yeah,
Leatherface, Jerkface,
yeah.
and it just became, and they're all franchise, and I was like, oh man. So that's
Well,
why I
that's
stopped somewhere in the 70s.
they
I,
started to
I just,
become big business, and the movie studios they're just chasing the buck. So then
that's
they
Star
start,
Wars, boy.
yeah, they just start putting out crap and more and more. And even now, the stuff they put out sometimes. I mean, I really don't go to the movies
I
anymore.
saw Kong versus Godzilla. It was just whatever.
Yeah,
It's whatever.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. And most of it now they film not just for America, but they want to hit the international audience. So a lot of these things are just fight scenes,
A
flashy,
lot of them, yeah.
you know,
CGI fight scenes.
just laser blasts and people duking it out and flying and explosion. I mean, it's You
Okay,
see it
I want to
once.
give I want to give it a reference point. When all the drive-ins started going out of business,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it ended.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not necessarily, but almost like, because I saw Star Wars at a drive-in, but I'm sure that drive-in only lasted a couple of years more, and then it went
Went
away,
out.
the Golden
Yeah.
Glades, because it became prime real estate property to build
Yeah. Plus,
whatever, you know.
when cable came in, especially with like HBO and that stuff, a lot of people would buy that, and then that's what they would watch.
Yep,
You wouldn't go to the movies anymore.
yep. Well, still, even when cable was around, I would still go to the movies because I was young enough and it was a social event. You'd go with your friends and you'd go and hang out
Yeah,
and go to a
true.
movie and then talk about it afterwards. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it's still that. So that's part of it too. But now it's like, nah, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'll just watch it on YouTube or Tubi or whatever free streaming channel there is. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, if you go now, people like, you know, they're there on their phones, they're talking, you know, you know, horsing around, or you got somebody who brings their entire family, grandma and the you know,
Yeah, I
2 year
gotta
old.
tell you, that kind of stuff happened back then, but not as much as
Yeah,
now.
not as prevalent though, but I mean, it did happen. But
I do have to admit that when me and my friends back in the 70s and early 80s went to a dollar movie and it sucked, we were
well, yeah.
jerks. We were jerks. We were hecklers.
If you're going to like Lord of the Rings, you don't want to hear jerks talking and making noise and you
Uh,
know people up and
here's one
down,
for
kids
you.
running around.
Here's one for you. I was in Altoona, Pennsylvania, my one trip to
Yeah.
Altoona, 1980 probably. And my friend wanted to go see Excalibur in the
Mm-hmm.
theater. So go see Excalibur, right? All of a sudden, this couple shows up and they park their butts 3 rows in front of us. Not only do they talk all the way throughout the movie, but they eat their sandwiches and they drink their drinks and they're like loud. They're like loud eaters, you know. It's like chomp, chomp,
Oh
chomp.
God.
You know, it's like, oh honey, this movie's really slow, isn't it? Oh yeah, honey, yeah, chomp, chomp, eating your sandwiches, and I'm like, I yeah, they were the show, man. I don't even remember that movie. I just remember those two. Anyway, those two idiots. That was always that in theaters. It was
Yeah.
always not
Well,
phone.
yeah. Did you ever sit down at an empty theater
And somebody
and then
next to
somebody
you.
comes in and sits like right in front of
Yeah,
you?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Oh, here's a great one for you. This is one of the ones that ended it for me pretty much. Even though I did go to a few more movies, my friend got free tickets for a screening of Sin City. Right? Forgot what year it was. Early 2000s. Let's just say. So
Uh-huh.
we go to the theater. There's a long line, and we had our little flip phones. They said, "Oh, you can't bring phones in." So my friend had to go take his phone because they didn't want anybody filming it. I don't know. Maybe the big phones were already around. I don't know. So my
Right.
friend had to go take the phones. I think he put them back in the car. Came back. So we're sitting there, right? So we go into the theater and we grab two chairs, right? All of a sudden, it's like this chair next to my friend, a chair next to my friend, two morons or friends sit right next to them and they start talking over us. And then we're sitting there going like, and then it becomes, we can't just see the movie. The radio station has a giveaway. Hey, this is WSHE. We're going to give away beach
Oh
and,
God.
and condoms and, diapers. And then and then like 30 minutes of that crap. And I just looked at my friend. He goes, let's get out of here. I go, yeah, let's go. So I never did see Sin City, but that was the
Oh.
beginning of the end for me going to the movie theaters. That was a classic one. Yeah, the Sin City debacle.
Wow.
Like, yeah, first they take your phones because I guess they didn't want you to film the movie. It's like,
Oh God.
remember back then people used to bring in uh, cameras or
Yeah.
whatever
The
and
camcorders.
get in the
The,
back of the theater and film.
yeah, and just film the movie. And then you in the
Then
city
yeah,
anyway. They had blankets with all the movies out for I don't know, like $20. I mean,
yeah. Then the movie would
just
be
went in the
out. Like,
theater. How are you? And then you if you buy it, then you see people's heads going back and people
Somebody
moving.
coughing,
Shit quality. Yeah, people
Yeah,
talking.
that's when that crap was going around. The bootlegs of the Star Wars and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, those were the days.
a
I
different
miss them
time.
though.
Different time.
I miss them. All right, well, that was Arena. Uh,
Yep. Not bad. Pretty good.
not bad, not bad. It's a B movie for sure.
Oh, definitely. Simple plot. Kind of cool aliens.
Yeah, a lot of them, a lot of aliens.
Yeah, and one side boob if you need
Yeah,
that.
one side. That's it, man. That's it. One side boob. I need more than that. No, not necessarily. If the movie's just really, really whatever, over the
Yeah.
top, but whatever. But we'll be back in 2 more weeks for another session of musical of not musical. Musicals next of of video greatness of the best of the best that we could bring you, the cinematic best from Hollywood. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to find something that has boobs in it. Damn it, and lots of them.
Okay.
But anyway, in the meantime, Roddy, should we what should we be doing
You
while
need
waiting
to,
for the next episode?
while waiting for the next episode,
Yes.
watch more B